Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2 Retribution. We're on Calderas Refinery tonight, featuring a 2-on-2 match from the Throne of Skulls tournament. And to do this double-header matchup, we're going to have a double-header casting lineup as well. So I've got Maestro Cretella with me. Say hi to the folks, Maestro.
Good evening.
And we've got Rataxas, Manisz, Grunk, and Badash. I actually not too familiar with the blue team, but I know the red team has been quite a force to be reckoned with so far.
Yeah, I've not heard of the blue team people at all, but I think they actually beat Tex and Fortune, and they seem to be pretty good. I think Rataxas also goes by Same 40 Zero Skilla, which is kind of a dumb name, but I've seen him in the Elite Mod chat a few times, and they actually seem pretty good.
Alright, well let's get this game on the road. We've got Commando Nob and Tech Marine on the blue side, and then we've got the Lord Commissar and Warboss on the red side. So 2 range versus 2 melee. But we'll go ahead and count it down. Oh, also, I'm looking at the nice, fancy new Warboss. I've noticed a lot of the little bits on the heroes have changed recently on the Elite Mod, and it's looking pretty sweet.
Right. The Warboss got some pretty good ones.
Yeah, he looks really wicked. But let's go. We're at 5 seconds. I'll count us off. 3, 2, 1, go, and we're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Alright, I think we're pretty well synced.
Awesome. Alright, so what do you think of the matchup? Do you think either side has an advantage as far as race and commander?
It's tough to say. I think the Warboss is extremely good, and I think part of what's interesting about the team that Grunk and Badash have is they have Imperial Guard, which is very much like a defensive, hold-the-line race, especially with that Sentinel in Tier 1, whereas Orcs are going to be a lot more aggressive, especially when they have the Warboss. That Warboss can just kind of charge ahead, especially if he gets angry bits, and those shooters are going to be doing a lot of damage once they have big shooters.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be a factor. Rataxas looks like he's actually might be skipping that initial scout because he's spending his requisition on popping both of those nodes quick, so he might just try to play defensively as the Tech Marine and hold the line.
I personally think that's a little risky, not really getting a third unit out quickly. Especially, he's going for those nodes, but sometimes I worry if you don't get those extra units, you might not be able to defend those nodes. We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I definitely go for, personally, when I'm facing Imperial Guard, and I'm not sure if we were going for random or fixed locations here, but if he knew he was going against Grunk, then perhaps he's holding out for the second tactical squad, but if that were the case, I feel like he wouldn't have grabbed the nodes at all. He would have just waited to get that tac squad out as soon as he could.
Yeah, I agree, and that second tac can put you behind a little bit on the nodes, but certainly against Imperial Guard, I feel like an extra scout squad would just bleed you without doing a whole lot.
So we've got a great big old orc skirmish on the northern side of the map, and it looks
Orcs
like
versus Orcs.
Badash just pretty much took that uncontested. Some sluggers just barely made it out of there.
With just one model. Badash is pretty much just all of his units still on the field, in fact.
Yeah, that was a solid engagement by the Warboss. It looked like what I saw on my screen. The Commando Nob whiffed his stun grenade pretty hard. And I feel like as Commando, if you can't land that and you've got 2 powerful melee squads in the Warboss and Sluggers, it's going to put you in a bad position.
On the bottom over here, though, it looks like Ratax is actually pushing back Grunk, and he actually went for a Devastator as his third unit, which I think is a good choice. How do you feel about that choice?
I mean, Devastator against Imperial Guard, I think, is just a given almost at this point, especially the way I play. You can get some Assault Space Marines, but I just don't feel like they ever really pay off. Even if you lose 1 Assault Space Marine, if you didn't kill about a dozen Guardsmen, it's not going to be worth it.
And he actually got advanced targeters already on that Devastator. Maybe just as a way to put more pressure on the Sentinel, since the Devastator will prevent the Sentinel from moving forward too much, but it's still, at long range, it's still not going to do that much damage to the Sentinel without the Vengeance rounds. So right now we actually see those Vengeance rounds doing a lot of damage to that Sentinel, in fact.
Wow, that Sentinel's going to go down any second. It's trying to stay in there, but it needs to back up. Oh my goodness.
It went down to like 2, and now it's down to 4. So those Vengeance rounds, take note. Those are actually really good against the Sentinel.
Yeah, wow, I did not expect it to do quite that much.
I believe they have been buffed a little bit in the Elite mod, so that may be part of it. I personally
anyways,
thought they were garbage in retail.
There were very few instances where it was useful. I liked them very much against the big heroes like the War Boss and the Chaos Lord, because you can actually put a lot of pressure on them when they just try to charge your setup team. But beyond that, yeah, they're really pretty lackluster. Shooter Boy's getting very low, finally falling back there for Mr. Manisz. He's still sticking it out on that side of the map with the Commando now, but down on the southern side, scouts go down, big loss early. That looked like, were they upgraded with a Sarge as well?
I missed that. I was actually looking up top, looking at, I think the Pain Boy's paying off a lot for Bad Ash.
But right now, Manisz only has the one Slugga Boy squad to deal with any kind of melee, and right now, if he, again, I feel like his only real defense against melee right now is that stun bomb, so if he whiffs that stun bomb, he's just going to get swamped at this point. He's got the Sub-Commander, the War Boss, and the Sluggas, so it's just a lot for two Shooter Boys to deal with.
Right, and Manisz has a Luda squad, which, I mean, if Bad Ash bunches up, he'll be able to suppress everything, but I mean, as long as he splits the Pain Boy, the Sluggas, and the War Boss, should be able to get in on Manisz's Luda squad.
Now I feel like down on the bottom, Grunk's been doing a great damage of kind of using line of sight to really break up the Space Marine position. He was dodging back and forth around this little hoodoo and this pipe right here, and trying to split up that Devastator, the Tech Marine, and the Tax, and once he did that, he was able to push them off pretty well. He's still falling back because he's pretty well beat up. But once again, the scouts are back on the field and have to fall back
dying again. Get down to half health, lose one model, trying to throw off a grenade.
Those Sluggas are stealth, but it's kind of going to waste right here. I know the Shooter Boys do have a detector on them, but Hide the Boy's not really doing anything in that situation. Luda's taking huge chunks of health off of that Lord Commissar, and the War Boss is kind of just stunned. Look at him. He's actually still charging, but he's just stunned while he does so.
That charge has been turning out to be a really great asset for, in a way, countering some of the War Boss's counters. I've been seeing a lot as a suppression counter, also gives him some health regeneration.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's still true, but I believe his health regeneration was stacking with the Pain Boy's passive regen after his heal, which makes him almost just go to full health after he can do a low health charge rather.
I've seen that exactly happen, and it's pretty ridiculous.
Similar to,
you can really go from no health to full health.
It's similar to back when the Apothecary Seguin Chainsword was stacking with the heal buff on the Apothecary.
Yeah, I remember that.
But anyways, look at that Sentinel moving in. It almost went down. A lot of people kind of disregard that when you use the Commissar Flare on setup team, it still doesn't lose that close range damage. So even though it can't fire as far, when you do walk into that arc of fire, you're going to be taking point blank fire from a setup team. And we saw that Sentinel almost go down because of that.
I don't know what the exact reduction it is, but it's still, I've actually seen it recently. It still has like maybe a third of its range or something, so if you still charge right in front of it, you're still going to get hit. A lot of generators going down right here for the blue team. I think the
red team's kinda...
Bad Ash might go down, and he does.
The red team kind of did a double push over there, and that's really what you need to do. On this map, like, all of the power is just kind of centrally located for one team. You just have those two gen farms right next to each other. So if you can make a concerted push into that side of the map, it really makes a huge difference.
Catachans dropped their smoke bombs. I think this might be a winning engagement for the Imperial Guard. Catachans are retreating though, and the Luda is still up, suppressing, should be suppressing Bad Ash's orcs.
Yeah, they are suppressed. The scouts got a pretty nice grenade on those Catachans. Did a lot of damage. I think only knocked one model down though. And it looks like the blue team's finally going to get grasp here on the central VP after being down by about 100 VPs here for quite a while.
I actually think it's a little curious that he decided to get a Scout Sergeant on his scouts. It looks like he mainly wants it for that grenade to just threaten the Imperial Guardsmen a little bit more, since they're vulnerable to area of effect.
Yeah, it does seem like a curious choice. It definitely gives your scouts a lot more survivability. But it's not like he needs the detection yet. But that, of course, could change if some stormtroopers come onto the field.
And the firepower it gives the scouts is actually very minimal, since the scout bolters really don't do that much damage. Alright, Tech Marine right here has the plasma gun. I guess he got that as an ogre encounter. Also has the artificer armor. I know you're a big fan of that, and we actually did see some mines put down. Although the Catachans should spot it.
Yeah, they have knocked out a couple mines. Looks like they're going to get knocked out right there. Ogren's on the field. I really think, despite the usefulness of artificers right now, he could go for that bionics against those Ogrins and against the Commissar Lord in general, because even though it only knocks them back briefly, the kind of damage he'll put out with that plasma rifle just while they're getting up could make could really stop a potential push.
And I think between the Ogrins and the Commissar, he could stand to get at least one more melee counter. Right now, he's mainly got the Devastators, could stand to either get shotguns or, as you said, bionics on the Tech Marine.
Here comes a sweet grenade, though, knocks right on their backs. Plasma rifle opens up, takes out a second model.
In that situation, I guess all he needed was the Devastators. I guess combined with the Tech Marine, certainly. And that Tech Marine will also be very good against the Sentinel.
Well, suppression combined with the grenades is very effective as well. If you can get a squad suppress and then drop that grenade really quickly, you can really hurt some feelings.
And that might be...
Shooters need to take out that Sentinel! Oh my goodness!
Another close call for that Sentinel.
That Sentinel is living life on the edge.
And we're going to have dueling Weird Boys out for the Orc players. I think we've been concentrating a lot on the humans, but these Orcs are about to stand off.
Yeah, I do want to see some more of this. Oh my gosh, this is exciting. Warpath going off right here.
And Bad Ash's Weird Boy almost going to go down. Comes really close. Another close call.
Yeah. Still losing HP, down to 13 HP before the drain finally stops. My gosh, that was just a decisive win for Manisz right there.
Yeah, Manisz, I think he's got pretty much everything still out on the field except this War Boss just tanking in there. With that health regeneration, he's still at like full health.
Just relentlessly charging in there. The Ogrins are coming in to help, and that Weird Boy's going to be in a lot of trouble. Those Ludas need to open up, and there they go. Perfect timing for that close range ambush. That is exactly how you want to play Ludas. Warboss still dueling with those Sluggas and still at full health. It's insane how useful that charge is. That might be due to the beta. He might have changed something, or maybe it's just that combination of the Pain Boy and the charge, but he's just still sitting at full health after slugging it out with Sluggas.
And if he gets that heavy armor later on, he's going to be a real pain to deal with. Shotgun special shooter up for the Commando Knob, and I think the Ludas kind of opened fire a little too late.
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with the Sentinel, it's better to just reveal your position, start plugging away at that thing the second it enters your arc.
Yeah,
Zap going down on those guardsmen.
And a Weird Boy goes down. That one's for, I think that one's for Manisz.
Which Weird Boy was that? Down
now,
it goes.
Bad Ash is in the back.
Uh oh, I hear the distinctive
Did you see the assault cannon
of the assault cannon barrage. Oh my goodness. So very good against Imperial Guard, and probably going to be damned effective against the Orc as well. Those scouts need to get themselves some shotguns right now, as we're about to see them. Everything gets swamped by melee. Hopefully that Dreadnought can find his way out of there. Otherwise, that's going to be a huge waste of resources if it goes down without doing the kind of damage it needed to.
Both the Ogrins and the War Boss are in here. I don't know if maybe the War Boss will use your choppas in this situation, but it looks like the Manisz is back here to support that Dreadnought.
Yeah, the War Boss had just recently used that, so I don't think it's quite ready yet. Lord Commissar, though, doesn't look like he's going to make it out alive, taking a point-blank blast to the face from that assault cannon.
Although,
unfortunately,
before that Commissar went down, I noticed he had the Fist of Brachus, which means Grunk is already in tier 3.
Yes, and his ally Bad Ash isn't far behind. Both the blue players spent quite a bit more power, it looks like, in tier 2, and they're not going to be able to hit that tier 3 point and find their critical mass a bit, quite as quickly as the Reds.
Certainly with an upgraded Dreadnought with the assault cannon, which is one of my favorite Space Marine units, actually. I love to get it. Can be hard to afford sometimes, given how expensive it is. But that assault cannon barrage is definitely great against both Orcs and Imperial Guards, and so good in this matchup. And even just a regular attack, like, it has better range than most ranged attacks, so it definitely has a lot of long range.
Without question. I mean, especially when I fight personally Imperial Guard, it's just integral to my build to get that Assault Cannon Dreadnought out there and just shred any kind of infantry pile that I can find. That Assault Cannon Barrage is just so satisfying when you can land it in the middle of a pile of infantry. I like turning guardsmen into bits.
Yeah, there was a time back when I mained Space Marines that I think I wiped 2 guardsman squads combining the Barrage with Smite. Although that was back in retail where Smite was a little bit better. And I think the game
has been toned down
thereafter.
a little bit.
But this Dreadnought does need some repairs, and if he is playing against Imperial Guard, Grunk doesn't have any Stormtroopers right now, but that is something you would have to worry about in the matchup. Basically, cloak Stormtroopers.
I would most certainly not have it that far up at that kind of health without a squad of scouts babysitting it. Luda's trying to find something to open up on. They really need to open fire on this Orc blob. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. You have to remember that when you cloak them, you do have to click them on. There they go. Look at them annihilate that Pain Boy.
Almost
Sluggers need to finish it off. They let him walk right by. Oh, huge oversight.
I mean, they got a few Slugger models, but ultimately that wouldn't have been as big of a victory as taking out that Pain Boy. That Pain Boy is
in the meantime, we've got a chase on the western side of the map. That Dreadnought's in a lot of trouble. Devastator getting set up to suppress those Ogrins, and just in the nick of time, because that Dread was about to go down.
The Dread did get a special attack off on the Ogrins, despite being in its ranged form. It did get a special attack off and stalled them out a little.
That's pretty uncommon, actually, I feel like.
Well, I guess normally you don't want to get your Assault Cannon Dreadnought in melee, because then it's usually in melee with something it does not want to be in melee with.
I would count Ogrins in that, yes. But there's a fallen Warboss on the field. Lord Commissar's moving in to help out here. He does have his Leman Russ tank out on the field. And man, I tell you what, with that elite tank upgrade, those Leman Russ tanks have become pretty nasty.
Yeah, someone corrected me on this in a cast. Basically, the Leman Russ is really good now. Has a 35% damage reduction like it did before. And it will actually beat a fully upgraded Predator if it has the Vanquisher and the elite tank crew.
Yeah, I've found that out the hard way myself a couple times here recently.
This one still is running vanilla though, so it's not that good yet. I feel especially could use some kind of upgraded cannon. The Executioner actually wouldn't be a bad idea either, although
not with the current makeup, not at all. Yeah, there's primarily infantry on the field. All they need to do is break that Dreadnought. Although Rataxas...
yeah, I was about to say. Rataxas getting that Land Raider Redeemer, so the Vanquisher is probably the better overall upgrade.
I mean, I really feel like those two vehicles are going to be the crux of the blue players' army right now. Of course, both of the blues are bringing some heavy tier 3 onto the field. Knobs and a Land Raider are going to really change the lineup here as far as what the red team has to deal with on threat priority.
Alright, but it looks like Grunk is getting off a bit of a gen bash as well as capturing this victory point. Blue just had a 3-cap. Looks like Red's about to return the favor with a 3-cap of their own. Devastators are about to set up with their vengeance rounds. Can do some, probably not that much damage to the Leman Russ. If anything, looks like the Leman Russ is going to force off that Devastator.
Yeah, I think even with that Land Raider coming out, Rataxas or Manisz, one of them really needs to get some sort of solid anti-vehicle out here, because that Leman Russ, I think, is going to really deal some damage if they let it run around unopposed. I think either the Ludas...
We missed it in the middle, but I think something just died. I think it was a guardsman squad from Grunk, maybe.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that as the battle has been ensuing, not many squads have fallen, but yeah, I believe you're correct. Grunk just lost himself one of his guardsman squads. There goes Emperor's Wrath, I think, too. Yes, Commissar Lord upgraded with 2 tier 3 weapons right now.
Shooter Boy is at 9 health, but just barely get out of there. Did get knocked down by the Weird Boy's regular attack.
Yeah, Knobs are struggling to get into the battle here. Activating their meaner and greener, and everything's recognizing that that's not the melee fight they want to be in.
I don't entirely know what you would actually counter Knobs with as orcs. I'm so used to just getting Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines.
Knobs, I'll go with.
And Badash has them.
I mean, I feel like, the normal counter to knobs is tanks, I feel like. You get your tanks out, you kite around, you just gotta watch out for the over-dare. Don't get them too close, and you should be able to deal with some pretty good damage.
And you do actually have
the Weird Boy himself actually does pretty good, because, I mean, if you ask me, Knob's weakness has always been knockdown, and the Weird Boy kind of has it in spades.
Right, and he's got the Warp Vomit and his regular attack. Just needs to make sure they don't get too close. But since the Weird Boy does do plasma cannon damage on his regular attack, he's going to be doing bonus damage to the Knobs.
This Land Raider might be overextending a bit. He's trying to keep the pressure on this Layman Rust tank, but the Orcs are coming in behind. The War Boss and the Knobs flanking hard. You can see, there goes the Lord Commissar flare. Everything's retreating, but they don't realize that they've got the Land Raider set to the retreat point. Fist of Brachus gets activated, and this Land Raider's in dire situation.
And it's done. Wow, even faster than I expected. But that Land Raider. Part of the problem with that Land Raider is that it's
my gosh, Tax just went down too.
Rataxas is losing a ton of stuff, and I think he might lose his Dread here too. Getting hit by the Fist of Brock's Knobs. He can't stop those Knobs right now, and that is going to be a dead Dreadnought. Finished it off with the Lehman Russ actually by Grunk. So major losses for Rataxas.
This is just a 1-on-2 now. This is all this is. Rataxas is just not going to be able to hold anything. And right now, Manisz is going to just have to fight the entire army on his own. I mean, a Rox right there, however, would really make me happy. That's just asking for a nuke.
Yeah, they don't quite have a threat yet for that.
Oh, speaking of... Oh, no! Oh, they're just standing in it! Oh, I'm excited! Explode! I love Orbital Bombardment! Oh, it didn't even kill any squads. I don't even care. I was just excited to see that happen. Yeah, that was...
That was cool, and yet those squads actually died.
He needed to spread out the beams a little more so that they would catch the units that get blasted away. But you don't really want to drop the orbital bombardment in one location like that. But wow, I mean, they just stood under it too. I don't know if they thought that each other had activated that or something, or they thought it was a call-in from the Imperial Guard maybe. But they just stood there and took it.
Yeah, I think there might have been a stun by the Weird Boy, but. Yeah, they could have just retreated out of there, which would have been better than taking it.
But man, that, if nothing else, bought the blue team a little bit of time, I guess, to get back in there. There's a looted tank coming out, but I don't know. Against that Lemon Rust, the looted tank's just not really going to deal with it. Tech Marine, I guess, is trying to go in and scare off the Lemon Rust with the threat of the orb. But the Catechins are lying secretly in wait there, knock him on his back, blow up the scouts, doing the commando job they need to do. He does get the orb off, but of course that Devastator has no real way to deal any damage to it.
Yeah, even if it was in range, I don't think it could really do enough, even just with the Vengeance rounds.
Yeah, he really needed to get a second Devastator at this point and equip that with a las cannon, because that Lemon Rust has just really been a thorn in his side. Looks like we've got a Predator coming on the field here shortly, though. Is he going to be able to get it out in time? They're down to 135 VPs. Looks like Manisz is doing a great job so far of holding the central VP.
Does have that looted tank out. Won't really be able to take the Lehman Rust, but can definitely kite around the Orc units. Although definitely have to be careful with this War Boss. He seems to be really good at charging into vehicles. And that Claw just does great damage with even just a single hit.
Yeah, that thing is just wicked. I mean, it always has been, it always will be. That Power Claw is just a force to be reckoned with.
And he can always just use your choppers on his own War Boss, if not the Knobs. Either one is going to be absolutely ridiculous, as long as they can get in.
At this point, the Tech Marine really just needs to get the Melta and try to put a little more pressure on that Lehman Rust. He's not going to land that orb every time. Ludas need to open up on those knobs, but I guess they're trying to be sneaky. It's a triple cap against the Blues, though, and I just don't think with the plethora of options that the red team has to do with anything they put out there, that they're going to be able to take the map back.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them, especially with Badash basically pushing Manisz back into his base, even though Manisz is the one who still has an army.
can see that Predator's trying to deal with the Layman Rust, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
And here comes another nice flank. Catechins and the Lord Commissar cornering that poor Predator.
And that's
Down
a
it
dead
goes.
Predator. And even to the extent that it could have taken on the Lehman Rust, it really would have needed the Las Cannon. Although that Lehman Rust is level 3.
I mean, it's the Warp
946
Spider
health.
Exarch that has the line, the Predator becomes the prey, right? I mean, I think maybe they need that for the Space Marines as well. But yeah, that's going to be the game for the blue team. A decisive push there from the Reds to just wipe out Rataxas' forces. Manisz was doing a great job of still holding the line, all things considered, but it was just too much. It was a 2-on-1 at that point, and I don't know, I guess we're just going to do a doubleheader. This was a Throne of Skulls game, and of course, it's best of 3. So, I guess we'll just go ahead and do the next game too, Cretella. What do you think?
Oh, I'm absolutely up for it, and I've seen the second game, and it is, to be honest, it is a lot better than this game. It's actually a very good game, so it's going to be good. It's going to be worth it.
What do you think? What do you think in this game that the blue team should have done a little better? Do you think Rataxas should have just fallen back from that engagement, or do you think it was just something about his build order? Or?
I think the Vengeance rounds, as good as they were early on against the Sentinel, they didn't really scale that well. So I think he could have either just kept the Devastators as just without any upgrade and waited until later till he needed the Las Cannon, or got another Devastator. I mean, of course, as you said, that Plasma Gun Tech Marine later on was not doing a whole lot. Could have used the Melt-A-Gun. And of course, I think there was Bad Ash was often flanking Rataxas whenever Grunk was kind of meeting him head on, and then I don't really know where Manisz was at times. So hopefully Manisz can support his teammate a little better.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that can definitely be said about Grunk and Bad Ash, is that their team play is just spot on. That's something that makes them so much more formidable as a team than their singular parts, is that their teamwork is just spot on. They're always there to aid, flank, assist, all that fun stuff. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Alright, and here we are at the beginning of the second match. I'm focused in on my main man, the Tech Marine here, and we've got the same matchup we just watched. This is the best of 3 between these two teams. So we've got Rataxas and Manisz once again, Bad Ash and Grunk, and it looks like this time the matchups are going to be a little switched up here, so hopefully that'll change up the action for us. And we are on Median Cliff Mines. So let's go ahead, get things started, and get this show on the road. So we're at 5 seconds. I'm going to cut us down. 3, 2, 1, go. We're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, we're pretty well synced. Good evening. This is Maestro Cretella, by the way. I'm joining Red-Rupee with a DoW2 Retribution Elite modcast.
Yeah, we got 2 games, 2 casters, 2 teams of 2 players. We're just going with the theme today.
Alright, so pretty standard opening builds for both Orc players, both getting double shooter boys, the most typical Orc build there is. Grunt going with double Guardsman into a Sentinel, pretty typical as well.
I mean, you can't argue with what works.
And then Rataxas still not getting that early third unit, decides to put down a power node instead.
Yeah, both players, I don't know if Rataxas popped both of those himself again, and that's just kind of how they're doing it, maybe trying to free up Manisz to use a little more of his requisition on troops. I know sometimes teams will do that. They'll say, I'll build the power and you get out your extra squad early, and I'll play defensive and you can just push and wreck face.
I think that especially works if you have the one who's putting down the power is playing like Orcs or Eldar. Right now in the middle we see that we see that
my gosh,
got wiped. Like an attack from the War Boss took out 2 of those last models in retreat.
That's a big early loss for Manisz. Hopefully what we were just talking about is true, because he's going to need that extra requisition to bring that third squad back onto the field. It's not looking good for the blue team already. They lost the first game, so hopefully they can tighten things up and really bring this back. Rataxas got himself those shotguns. Perhaps he learned from last game after letting that melee be a bit too threatening. Of course, he is against the War Boss, so he really is going to need to be on top of his melee counters.
Yeah, you can't just get around the War Boss just through micro. I know there are some times when you'll see Space Marine players actually get scouts and not get shotguns, but I think the War Boss, you need something to control him.
I feel like with the Tech Marine and 2 scouts with Sarges, you can actually do pretty well as far as kiting and dodging around and like just kind of pressuring with grenades and the mastercrafted bolter. But yeah, you really want those shotguns at some point of the game, especially when you get later on. You have Storm Boys jumping around, stunning things, you have Knobs coming onto the field. You're gonna need at least 2 or 3 melee counters. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get Bionics. But we see Bad Ash going again for that Pain Boy right out of the gate, not getting his Shooter Boy upgrades, just really focusing on getting that Pain Boy out early and using that synergy with the War Boss. You see him getting the Angry Bits right here, as we saw him use that last game to great effect.
Gives him crazy health regeneration. There's health regeneration on the Angry Bits, and then obviously from the Pain Boy's heal. It just makes the War Boss have a lot of staying power when he can practically heal himself to full after being close to death. Alright,
So
Devastator's
Rataxas keeping
now
it
for
the same.
Rataxas.
Yep,
Right.
and we're seeing Ludas come on from Manas as well.
And he also did that last game. He did have the Luda squad. Obviously, it does have a different matchup. Stun Bomb going off for Rataxas. I mean, not for Manisz. And the Sentinel does stomp both of those Shooter Boy squads, while the Commando Knob actually forcing melee, but he's going to have to get out of there.
Yeah, he got a good stun on that Lord Commissar, but it probably would have been a little more advantageous to just stun the Guardsmen, pull the Shooter Boys back around that rock outcrop right there, and maybe stall out for a little bit and play a little game right there and try to keep the Lord Commissar scared that his power was going to go down.
So still 500 VPs for the red team, and they're actually about to get a triple cap, aside from these tacks in the middle about to get that contested victory point, as well as scouts getting this southern victory point.
There it is, though. Triple cap for a split second before it all gets torn apart by the Space Marine army. And Shooter Boys, 2 squads of Shooter Boys actually capping that requisition point on the outside. That's sort of a tertiary point right there, way out in the distance. Tax retreating, or soft pedaling rather, back from all this melee, but I think they need to get out of there. Big nice stomp there from the War Boss. Might be able to allow those guys to pick off attack. Yeah, the Straggler went down.
Yeah, he was trying to use his tax to bait all of those melee units into the Devastator firing arc, and it worked. They did have to retreat, although they don't really take any losses. In fact, Bad Ash did not bleed at all from that engagement.
Yeah, I honestly think right now he should just move up, set the Devastator up on that power, and start ticking away at that power right there. The Shooter's finally coming over to help out. If they had been there a little bit earlier, they might have been able to help out, you know, and really change the course of how that engagement went down. They could have pressured that Devastator and stopped the suppression fire from coming in, but up top we've got Manisz really hurting the Imperial Guard. That Sentinel looked like it was pretty beat up. Power's going down on the top. Shooter Boys are going to have to fall back, though, as there's an artillery spider squad on the field. That's an interesting choice, I feel like. What do you think? Have you used the artillery spider squad? I haven't much myself recently yet.
It's very good against setup teams. Will hard counter most setup teams, and it can be pretty good against range units as well. Although regular range units are better at microing away from the artillery spotter. And there goes the Sentinel from the
Sentinel goes down.
Stom must have been on cooldown. I didn't actually see it go off though.
There's a beautiful timing on a call-in for the Shooter Boys too. There was a miraculous knob that dropped down from the sky to save it from annihilation.
And I think the change of matchup is benefiting the blue team, since the Manisz, with playing as Orcs, he's going to have a lot more ranged DPS with double Shooter Boys as well as that Commando Knob. Going to be able to put a lot more pressure on the Sentinel, although the Sentinel's dead, as well as bleeding models off of that Guardsman and forcing them off quickly.
Yeah, the Scouts right there, unable to do anything about all this melee. Their shotguns must be on cooldown as this Devastator finally gets set back up and suppresses the majority of the Orc army. Warboss gets his heal, though, from the Pain Boy and is just going to decide to soft pedal out of it. At that range, the Devastator is actually not doing that terrible a damage to everything. And in the meantime, the Shooters are just blowing up gens.
Research underway.
It's actually now a triple cap for the blue team, and they've actually taken an advantage in victory points. So after that beginning where they had a triple cap against them, Red still at 500. Blue's actually now kind of winning.
Yeah, I mean, Rataxas doing a great job of holding the Orcs. Manisz came back with a powerful hit, taking that Sentinel out. I'm glad Rataxas went for the second scout this time around. I feel like it's really going to be necessary. Here goes that Warboss Angry Bits and Pain Boy combo. And look, he's charging into a Devastator and still gaining health. Finally, at point-blank range, he starts to lose it and realizes he better get out of there. But just ate about 3,000 bullets into that big old head of his, and didn't even care.
He clearly wasn't going to win, but it's still just mind-blowing that he still had so much of his health being right in front of a suppression team.
Yeah, if he had an army to support him there, I mean, that would have been nigh on impossible to stop him.
Alright, Scout's over here at gen bashing. Scout's pretty good at gen bashing because those shotguns do a lot more damage than their starting bolters as long as they're up close.
Yeah, you can actually gen harass pretty well with shotgun scouts, I agree with that. But it looks like Badash is going to come out here and put a stop to this relatively shortly. Those scouts might be able to get that decap. It's going to be tight. Slug is moving in with those burners. Second squad does get the knockback. Node gets decapped, and all the Space Marines hit the retreat and are easily routed.
Actually,
but up top it looks like... Yeah, definitely. Right. Up top, though, however, it looks like that Chimera is just uncontested. The shooters are trying to get around and get out of there. Sluggers are hidden as well. Ludas have their Beamy Def Gun queued up, so he knows that that Chimera is going to be the linchpin in the Imperial Guard army right now. There's 2 guardsmen, there's some Catechins coming out. But there's nothing that's going to be able to be done about that Chimera for the time being.
We shall make it so.
Ooh, a nice looking Artificer mine just went off. Blew up a bunch of Sluggers.
We do see him having the Artificer armor again after we said that he could probably benefit from Bionics, especially right now as he's getting chain knockdown by those Slugger boys.
Yeah, and Bionics is just very effective in certain situations. Ooh, here comes the Commando Knob with his special shooter. Is it going to go off? Ooh, look at that damage. Oh, and there's some Imperial Guard bits. I see them. Lots of bits.
A lot more got knocked over than got killed, but now a lot more are getting killed. Missile attack up, so vehicle counter, that Sentinel, I mean the Chimera is
but
not...
here comes some grenades!
Oh, wow. Alright, so one attack model goes down, and the rest of them do have to worry about those double shooters, although
nice
answers back with double shooters of his own.
You have to keep in mind when you use those stun grenades that they move a lot slower than the standard sticks. You really have to lead your targets a little bit.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that, but I saw it just now. Those the regular stick bombs going a lot faster.
Yeah, it's like those stun bombs kind of float. They must be made with lighter material, I guess.
Down in the bottom, the War Boss is still just tanking against the Devastator, a shotgun, but now we have Veil of Time on the Devastators, allowing them to run a lot faster as well as not have to set up. But it looks like the War Boss doesn't care.
See, this would be a perfect opportunity. Again, I know I keep plugging it, but Bionics, man, he could have knocked that War Boss back, and with Veil of Time, those Devastators could have turned right around and opened up on him.
Alright, so the Librarian used Quickening, but then he realized he just can't take the War Boss. Especially now that he's got that Power Claw.
Oof, those sticks! It hurts! Explosions going off on your attacks, that's never what you want for that power armor. You really only want to be soaking up small armed fire.
I feel like there was a time when people said that stick bombs were bad, but they actually seem really good these days. I don't know if they got a buff or if they were always good, but they seem really good.
I mean, throughout the patches, stick bombs had gone through a lot of different changes, so I'm really not sure when they were good and bad, but oh man, actually tagged one of those Devastators and they can't quite get set up to do it right. Scouts have to fall back, Warboss capping under fire, 325 to 271. Blue team still a little bit on the advantage here. And a big mortar goes down up top. Oh, nice shot by the Weird Boy.
But
that Commando needs to get in there.
Yes, he does. And that Weird Boy is a great choice against Imperial Guard, I think, both for disrupting the Imperial Guard range mob, as well as even being able to do damage to the Chimera.
No, I mean, we just saw some great damage from Zap going off between those various squads. Putting pressure on the Chimera is great, too, because it can't just sit up there and continue to lay DPS into your units if it doesn't want to be taking those Weird Boy shots. Man, and there's just action happening constantly on either side of the map. Both sides playing very singularly. Not really any major team engagements thus far. Huge hit from that custom special shooter there. Knocking those Catechins back. Didn't manage to kill but one of them. But it did some crazy damage. Here comes another engagement. Let's see if the Weird Boy changes it once again. Everything hops in, but the sluggers are going to be ready as soon as those guardsmen hide out of there. Nice shot
Mortar
again
shot
by those
disrupts that
mortars.
entire blob. Has more range than it looks like it.
Yeah, it's really an interesting unit. I'm not sure how often it really makes too much of a difference, unfortunately, but like, if you can land those mortars right, land those smokes right, I think it can definitely help turn the tide of a battle and get you that little edge if you use it in the right way.
It's specifically very good against setup teams, although Manisz, he does have one. But I've heard some people say that it doesn't scale very well and that it's not really that useful outside of countering setup teams. Catachans take a big blast, but right now we see those shooters got blinded, or actually, yeah, Sluggers actually got blinded. I don't know why he would do that.
Man, the Warboss just charged in there. As soon as Manisz saw that Warboss, he's like, nope, I'm not gonna mess with that. This Weird Boy's too low. 2 chops of that claw, and I could be down at Weird Boy.
Alright, so still a 2-cap for the blue team. Let's see, Rataxas now with a Dreadnought on the field. Probably going to keep it as melee in this game, since he has to deal with the Pain Boy and the Sluggers and, of course, the Warboss.
No, I think that Emperor's Fist is going to be very useful, and outside of the Claw, Badash has nothing that's going to be able to contend with that thing. Grenades, however, just raining from the sky constantly.
Alright, 2 Devastator models go down. What those Devastators do get out of there, a Scout might go down to 1 model, taking a lot of damage, and actually just goes down to all of Guardsman fire. Yeah,
I don't know why he had those Scouts so far up. The Dreadnought didn't need that much support at the time. But, again, we're seeing, you know, that's what Grunk recognized. Grunk recognized Badash was in a tight spot. The Space Marines are pushing in. He just hops in his Chimera, pops over there, pushes everything off, gets himself a squad out of it, too, and then is going to be able to get back to his side relatively quickly to help deal with the impending Orc threat on his VP and Gen Farm.
And I think Grunk and Badash might be having a little bit more trouble now that they're actually more just fighting like one-on-one. They're fighting by themselves. That was a time when they did kind of assist each other and it helped them out. But that's what they did really well last game that kind of made it not even that close. But this time, they're not really fighting as one as much as they were before. Although now it looks like... Now it looks like Badash is switching lanes, coming all the way over to double Manisz.
Yeah, I think they might be recognizing that that's their situation, is that they're kind of getting picked apart one-on-one, and really at this point in the game, they've both got big armies that would be great and hugely advantageous for them to fight together. Hang out by that Chimera, the Orcs will be able to stay out on the field and heal up, keep those models on the field as well. And,
Badash actually turns around, decides to take care of the Space Marines that were following him, and does take some models off of, I think, those... Well, he does force off attacks.
Meanwhile, this Chimera in a bit of trouble as these Sluggers and Weird Boy hammer away at it. Ooh, big friendly fire shot, though. But bought enough time for those Shooter Boys to completely take out the Gen Farm. Meanwhile, in the middle, huge engagement going down.
Plasma Cannon Devastator doing a lot of area effect damage, but then those Plasma Cannon Devastators take some stick bombs, do not actually lose a model, luckily enough for them.
I thought the Plasma Dev was curious knowing that there were stick bombers on the field.
Yeah, I mean, it could be tough. You're definitely going to take some model losses or even potentially risk losing that Plasma Devastator, but, I mean, even if it can get, like, just 1 shot off, it can do so much in just 1 shot that it might still be worth it.
I'm surprised the Tech Marine doesn't have his Mastercrafted Bolter. It's so excellent against Orc and is, you know, one more way to slow down melee. That Dreadnought wouldn't have been under nearly as much duress if he had managed to just get a quick shot off on that Warboss and slow him down, keep him from constantly pounding away with that fist. Ooh, sneaky Commando getting a big shot off in the center, hurting those stick bombers, and actually he notices just in time to
they're getting really close to dying. I think they will be fine though.
But everybody's tier 3 now except for Rataxas, who can actually go tier 3 whenever he hits that 300 right here shortly. But Knobs are on the field for Manisz, and they're coming out for Badash, so Orcs are going to be hitting critical mass here shortly. But both both Grunk and Rataxas kind of just sitting on their tier 2 tech for the time being. Looks like, if I was a betting man, we're going to be seeing a Baneblade here shortly.
Oh, let's see. Grunk is at... Yeah, he's got... I just saw some Plasma Devastators explode on some mines right underneath their feet. But Grunk has almost 200 requisition.
Yeah, the scouts got their Sarge trying to mitigate some of the obnoxious Commissar mines there in the center. Honestly, at this point, I feel like the Dreadnought could get that assault cannon and it'd be just as effective as keeping it for the Emperor's Fist. He's got enough melee counters out that I kind of feel like he doesn't need it. And I think that assault cannon barrage would be more effective than keeping it melee for right now. But we'll have to see how this plays out. Oh, the Plasma Devastator shot at the wrong thing. Don't hit that hero, hit that giant pile of Orc infantry.
Yeah, because now the regular Devastator in the back nearly dies from those stick bombs, and this Dreadnought might be in a little bit of trouble. A huge Emperor's Fist does a ton of damage to all of those Orcs. They were bunched up a little bit too much. But now he does have to worry about those knobs and the War Boss. That could be a dead Dreadnought, especially since Emperor's Fist is on cooldown. Needs to get the regular Devastator out, set up into a firing arc, as well as maybe the Shotgun Scouts. Alright, I think the Dreadnought will be fine, at least for now.
Yeah, it looks like it managed to get out of that spot, but man, that was looking like a dead Dread. But, however, the top side's looking a bit better for the blue team. It looks like Manisz has been constantly keeping the pressure on Grunk, but when that Baneblade comes out, it's gonna be a problem. And Grunk with a little flavor commentary there for you.
Not too happy, maybe having a little trouble using his Chimera effectively, being threatened by both the Beamy Luda and the Weird Boy.
No, I think Manisz just recognized that that Chimera was going to be an issue. Weird Boy's so effective, and with the Beamy Def Gun hanging around from time to time as well, getting some pot shots in, I mean, it's just dangerous to have that Chimera on the front line.
And I feel like that Chimera can be so vital to Imperial Guard play, but at the same time, once there starts being a lot of AV, it's hard to keep it alive. You need to be pretty good at microing it.
I think at that point you just want to use your Guardsmen as your front line, just keep them reinforcing, keep the Chimera back, even just leave it way back there and use the Commissar on your Guardsmen to cancel retreat when they go back and just kind of keep them on the field like that.
But Badash and Grunk down to only 50-some VPs. Gonna have to make something happen. Badash is actually going down to the south to capture the bottom VP, and he's actually pretty much unopposed, but he needs to actually move his units to cap. Meanwhile, he's got most of his units fighting in the middle. That War Boss, like, just does not even care that there's a Devastator right here. Although now I think he might go down. No, he'll actually get out of there. Wait, maybe I spoke too soon?
Down
okay,
he goes, yeah.
Go down.
And look at this, the stick bombs so late. Like, if they had just dropped those sticks at the beginning of that engagement would have been over. The knobs wouldn't have gotten the suppress, the War Boss would have gotten into melee, and there would have been nothing right there, but unfortunately, Badash was just kind of in two different places and not paying attention to all his units.
Yeah, we're seeing definitely some drop on his micro. Right there, he was blob capping again with shooters, two fully upgraded shooters just blob capping together. And, I mean, in the time that engagement was going on, he could have done both the stun bombs as well as the regular stick bombs.
Meanwhile, up top, we've got Knobs chasing off that Chimera, and the Baneblade actually a little intimidated by the missile tax and the Weird Boy. That big tank is going to be needing to be very careful, as it's soon going to have Knobs behind it. Chimera just getting relentlessly chased down by those Knobs. Two get knocked back by an all-reliable, but it looks like they finally have to fall back under threat of suppression from that big base gun.
Oh. And they really wanted that Chimera, but it might have been better for them to get in position behind that Baneblade.
I think that's actually very astute. If he had just pulled back, helped finish off that Baneblade, and even just the path block that Knobs provide to slow it down from getting away. But anyways, down bottom, big engagement. Devastator's getting pushed back. Tech Marine almost went down as well. Dreadnought looks like it's almost certainly not going to survive this time around. Oh, but will it be lucky enough to survive? The blessing's going down.
And Frenzy and use your choppas. That could be a dead Dreadnought, but now it's getting repaired actually by the Tech Marine Global. Blessing of the Omnissiah, I believe it's called, and it actually
Oh my
survived.
gosh. Wow, that was close, and he just pulled every trick out of the book he could right there, and managed to keep that Dreadnought up. But that's what I'm saying, like, at this point, there's enough orc melee that that Dreadnought really is not safe anymore on the front line. It's great to have that Emperor's Wrath, but I don't know, I just feel like I kind of want the Assault Cannon. But
I like the Assault Cannon. But,
yeah, I may be biased. What can I say?
Now a triple cap for Badash and Grunk, even when they're down to 37 VPs. Rataxas and Manisz on the edge of victory, but they need to close it out.
Actually, this map is Edge of Annihilation. Edge of Annihilation.
yes, of course.
But honestly, I mean, what I kind of would think would be actually really useful for Rataxas is a late game turret. Drop that turret way back behind the Devastators. Watch Badash spend all his resources trying to get in and break that Dev, and then as soon as he gets there, he's gonna just get suppressed again.
Alright, now...
Oh, unfortunately, the Plasma Dev just hitting craters here. Not quite set up in a good spot.
If it's either just missing on its own, or if he's attacking ground at a spot where there's nothing. Major things going on in the middle. Stick bombs going in on a bunch of orcs, as well as this Baneblade moving forward.
Oh, so much...
seems to be path blocking the Baneblade.
I think that's actually... I don't know, it's just kind of sitting up there. It might be his own squads. That's the problem with the Baneblade and IG sometimes, is you can just have too much infantry around it and it actually can't move very well.
And the Baneblade gets hit by the Orb of the Omnissiah, but it looks like a Shooter Squad might go down. Yeah, Shooter Squad goes down for Manisz, so Manisz is taking some losses. And it looks like
Guardsmen are fixing it up. Rocks coming down. Oh my goodness, is the Baneblade gonna get out of there? There's still missile attacks, but they're taking rock fire. The rocks. Oh no! Tax, what are you doing?
I think the Baneblade is actually gonna be fine.
Oh wow, that beamy def gun, and if the tax had been up, that thing would have been in a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, down bottom, speaking of trouble, these Terminators taking a lot of damage from a quick volley of sticks. Use your choppers once again on the Knob Squad, threatening that Dreadnought. Level 2 upgraded with Dark Age of technology. And,
finally be the end of that Dreadnought. Devastators might...
it survives again! But those Knobs recognize that the real prize is those Terminators. They can take out 2 Terminators that's just about the same cost as a Dreadnought.
They took out 1 model on the Terminators. Scouts need to repair that Dreadnought, and Rataxas is managing to keep his stuff alive, but now the victory points are starting to tick down in favor of Badash and Grunk. They've definitely evened out the VPs a lot. Still at 37 themselves, but they're holding on to that 2-cap, and even we're trying to threaten a 3-cap.
Yeah, the Scouts are pushing off the Stick Bomber. Stick Bombers could actually take them in melee if they chose to, especially now that that shotgun has been used. They could have just turned around and fought them. But man, those 2 vehicles from Grunk are just holding the line now. That Baneblade is nothing to scoff at. It needs a lot of repairs, but as of right now, the Catechins with 2 explosives really just trying to stall out that cap and buy as much time as they can. With 2-0 cap, 67 to 37. I mean, this game can go either way at the blink of an eye.
Alright, now at the top, Manisz going for a Foot of Gork, and
Foot of Gork!
Not paying attention. And did he take out... Oh,
he got a whole squad!
No, they actually got inside the Chimera.
Oh, I love
He lost a bunch of models, but got inside the Chimera. Quite amazingly.
I just looked up just to see the Foot come down, and I just saw about a dozen plus 3s, and I thought there were just no more guardsmen left. I was excited, but the Chimera saves them just barely.
But now the victory points are even, and after Rataxas and Manisz actually had quite a bit of a lead, it's now going in favor of Grunk and Badash again.
I don't think they can get back out in time. The Baneblade's sitting on the middle point. There's Catechins still watching the top. Those sluggers are gonna get shredded, and there's just nothing that can get out here. It's 13 to nothing, 37 points, and the red team just never lost a single one past that. Wow, excellent comeback from the red team. The Blues just couldn't keep it together. That Dreadnought at the end was just constantly scared to engage in melee. And once that Baneblade hit, like I thought Grunk was making a mistake going for the Baneblade. because it was going to cost them the VPs. But the second that came out, I mean, the VPs stopped ticking.
And I mean, I think Manisz had an opportunity where he was going for that Chimera, but I think the better option would have been going for that Baneblade with his knobs, and then they had to retreat. And then in both vehicles ended up living.
Yeah, losing the tax squad, too, to the rocks was just super unfortunate. I don't know if Rataxas was microing on the bottom, but those tax were just sitting under the rocks. And that Baneblade was so low. I mean, a couple more rockets and one more BB Def Gun shot, and that thing was done. But
yeah, it was
anyways,
at like 300 health.
Wow. Quite a game once again. Both of these matches were pretty solid, but obviously that's going to be 2-0 for Badash and Grunk for the Throne of Skulls tournament. I'm actually not sure what the conclusion of that is currently sitting at right now, but I guess we'll have to harass some folks and see what the deal is. But I still like covering the games from it. I enjoy the 2v2 format pretty well.
Produced definitely some good matches.
But yeah, I like 2v2 because it's a good mix of just kind of like early game one-on-one fights and then some just big team shenanigans towards the end. You can get some good combos off without it feeling like a cheese fest. And you know, I enjoy 3v3s, but sometimes that's what they feel like.
Yeah, and I think just the element of team play is something that can just make games a lot more interesting.
But anyways, everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around for this double header. And of course, thanks for Maestro Cretella for coming out and helping me co-cast, keeping my voice from exploding on its own from doing 2 games back-to-back.
Of course, my pleasure. And as always, have a good night.
Yeah, this is Red-Rupee and of course Maestro Cretella. Thanks for watching. We'll be catching you guys next time.